Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into
There are quite
it.
a few reasons why a car owner wants or simply has to paint or repaint the body of his vehicle. Some want to restore the paint layer after a traffic accident. Others need to renew the paint because of its natural fading and deterioration. Some people just want to change the color of their car because they are tired of the old one. At the same time, there are different ways to paint the body, each of which has certain strengths and weaknesses. Xerallic is currently very popular. This is a special method of painting which involves the step-by-step application of several layers of paint layer. In this case, a big role is played by a special pigment that is added to the composition of the material. What it is? Not all car owners had to work with Xerallic paint, so not everyone knows what it is and what it looks like. In fact, it is a modern material for paintwork. Xerallic is offered in the form of pearlescent pigment and is sold in dry form. The special application technology helps to obtain a silky and perfectly even surface. It looks like an applied film that creates a shimmering color effect. The developers of this pigment is the company Xerallic, which is the reason for the name of the product. The manufacturers themselves position their solution as an improved alternative to traditional mother of pearl, which managed to surpass it in key characteristics. The essence of the development is that car owners can use a new approach to the choice of coloring pigment in the process of making paint for cars. The pigment of classic mother of pearl contains components of muscovite or potassium mica, which is ground to microscopic pieces. This component allows for the creation of a silvery hue. Xerallic includes microparticles of artificially produced aluminum oxide, characterized by perfectly precise facets. The aluminum is intended to create a glitter effect. They are further enhanced by metal oxides and elements that have the ability to reflect light. Glitters used for modern automotive paintwork materials have different shapes and differ in base color. The most actual solution is a combination of two colors, which are chosen from the available 7 basic palettes, namely blue, yellow, green, gray, white, red, black. According to the paint specialists themselves, as well as ordinary motorists who have managed to use Xerallic, this pigment looks most favorable when using a dark background. Therefore, it is a favorable solution for owners of green, black, blue, and red cars, as well as those who want to repaint the car in similar tones. Car owners especially note red and silver Xerallics, and also highlight purple and pearlescent variants. At the same time, the pigment is constantly being improved and perfected. The development of technology has made it possible to create so-called compositions chameleons, where several layers are used at once, with the use of different reflective components. Advantages and disadvantages before repainting your car and giving money for it. It is worth carefully weighing the arguments for and against the use of Xerallic. Although the material is in great demand and is actively used in paint shops, there are some disadvantages to this pigment. We are talking about the following weaknesses: excessive caution by drivers. After the expense that Xerallic provides, many drivers are overly careful in operating their vehicle. They behave insecurely, take a long time to choose a parking space so that it is not too crowded. Everything possible is done to avoid accidental damage. This may seem like a good side effect, as the driver becomes more careful. But focusing on keeping the paint intact distracts from more important things: scratch elimination. If you accidentally bump and scratch a Xerallic-treated body while using your car, even a small scratch will create a very unpleasant effect. And to get rid of the damage, you will have to completely repaint the entire part of the car. This entails significant financial costs. It will not be possible to just neatly tint without losing the external attractiveness, cost. Complete repainting of the car with the use of Xerallic is not a cheap pleasure. In the best case, you will have to pay about 30,000 rubles. And the processing of medium and expensive foreign cars will cost even more expensive. Therefore, not everyone is ready to invest such funds in painting, even despite all the objective advantages that characterize Xerallic. If the above disadvantages do not embarrass the motorist, it will be useful for him to learn about the advantages that he will receive. when using for repainting his vehicle's special material called Xerallic. Specialists and ordinary motorists distinguish several of the most significant advantages of the pigment. Saturated color. When repainting with the use of Xerallic, the color of the car body changes noticeably, becoming more pronounced and saturated. This is obvious even against the background of a new factory-colored body, main color retention. The undercoat, which acts as the main color of the vehicle body, is preserved without any distortion. This allows you to favorably present the color of your car in a new format, significantly improving its external characteristics. Original gloss and silky film. The effect created by Xerallic is directly dependent on the lighting. If it is normal daylight, the pigment shows its glitters, making the car shiny and noticeable. It looks really cool and unusual compared to standard coloring. And if the light is not particularly bright, then the Xerallic creates a slightly different effect. The car looks like it's covered with a silky film. It is also extremely original and attractive, iridescence. The shimmer is also present if you paint with standard pearlescent or metallic. But in the case of metallic, shimmer occurs only in one plane. The standard mother-of-pearl shimmers in two planes. Xerallic compares favorably with them, because here the iridescence occurs in 4 planes at once. Read also, features of the use of the Charger IMAX B6. No one disputes that Xerallic is used purely to improve the appearance of the vehicle. It does not provide any unique properties in terms of protection. It directly depends on the other components of paintwork materials used together with Xerallic. But it is due to its appearance after painting the body becomes completely different, looks favorably against the background of the rest of the car flow, attracts the attention of others, and also pleases the car owner. To use Xerallic or not, it is a matter of everyone's personal choice. If you have the opportunity to spend a certain amount of money on coloring, as well as contact good professionals, the result will definitely please you and pleasantly surprise you. But there is no acute need for Xerallics when painting a car. This is a purely aesthetic component, which not everyone puts in the first place when improving their car. Some people claim that painting with Xerallic is not significantly different from traditional pearlescent, and supposedly these pigments are actually synonymous. But in fact there is a difference, and the materials are different from each other. Therefore, Xerallic and nacre are classified as different coloring pigments. The main difference is the origin of the particles that create the effect of light reflection. If the nacre uses mica, then Xerallic is based on synthetically created aluminum oxides. This allows to obtain particles of the correct shape. And since the shape is correct, light from smooth plates is reflected much more effectively, as if from a mirror. That is, there is no scattering effect. This is what provides better interference of light, creating a more attractive and bright effect. Yes, in many ways, Xerallics and pearlescents are similar in terms of the visual effect they create after being applied to the car body. At the same time, Xerallics are cheaper, but you get a more pronounced result. Pearl, reflecting light, scatters it, and therefore the color of the body becomes somewhat cloudy. Xerallic can reflect light rays almost mirror-like due to its smooth particles. Light is not scattered, which creates a bright, saturated hue. The iridescence looks superb, and traditional mother-of-pearl in this component can in no way compare to Xerallic. Procedure for proper application. When painting a car Xerallic, it is necessary to strictly comply with a number of requirements, as well as adhere to the technology of applying the material. Otherwise, the result will not just disappoint, but will force you to repaint the body, putting into the work additional resources, in the form of money, time, and even nerves. To paint the car with a special pigment Xerallicum was successful, and the car did not remain any extraneous particles after drying. Experts recommend adhering to a few rules when preparing cars and when creating conditions for their repainting. Painting is carried out strictly indoors. It is categorically impossible to carry out the procedure in an open area. This is due to the fact that the wind will contribute to the penetration of various debris, dust, and other microparticles on the body. As a result, the surface will become rough and dull. Before you paint your car with Xerallic, you need to prepare the room itself. The dye pigment contains reflective components. Contact with dust or improper drying will lead to disappointing results. The room should be spacious and have a heating system. The presence of drafts is not allowed. It is extremely important that paintwork materials with Xerallic dry evenly and under normal temperature conditions. The body is pre-treated. For this purpose, grinders are used. This will prepare the surface for the subsequent application of materials. From the tools, the main elements are grinders, a quality, paint sprayer, and additional consumables. Consumables include films, solvents, automotive primers, and sandpaper with several grit levels. It is recommended to buy all paint and varnish materials only from one manufacturer. Otherwise, there may be an effect of incompatibility between the different components. Read also, what is a bypass and why is it needed? Based on the basic rules, you should prepare the machine and create the right conditions for painting. Any violations of the recommendations lead to extremely undesirable results. Given the complexity of the procedure and the need to create special conditions for the car in Xerallics, it is worth applying the material with your own hands only if you have the appropriate experience, resources, and when painting individual elements of the body. If you want to repaint the car completely, then it is better to contact a good workshop that has a special box for painting cars and also has sufficient experience in working with Xerallic. The very technology of applying paint and varnish material using a special pigment Xerallic provides for 3 consecutive stages. The procedure involves a total of 3 layers, each of which is applied in strict sequence. Substrate. The first layer is always the substrate. This will be your main color, so you should be careful when choosing a palette for the first layer. If you want to get the maximum effect from the work of the Xerallic itself, then here experts advise to give preference to darker tones. On their background, pigment Xerallic shows its maximum pigment. Now a pigment mixture is used, which may include 1 or 2 components. Here a transparent base is required, to which Xerallic powder is added, since the pigment is sold in dry form. There are several color variants of the component to choose from, but you need to choose the one that will harmonize with the main color of the substrate in the most interesting way. Lacquer completes painting by applying a varnish, as in the case of painting with conventional automotive paints. Since the lacquer is transparent, it serves solely as a protective layer, complements a little decorative component of the Xerallic. It is only necessary to add the pigment component in the second step, i.e., in the transparent base. There is no point in adding Xerallic powder to the undercoat paint, as it will not provide the proper effect. It is also not a good idea to use Xerallic in the final varnish layer. Since the pigment contains microparticles, they will simply protrude outwards and create a rough surface. How strong will be the concentration of Xerallic in the composition of the transparent base decides the master himself together with the client. It all depends on what kind of shine the car owner wants to get. A car with a black undercoat looks very impressive, with several shades of Xerallic added to the second layer. If you are painting even a part of the body or the entire vehicle, be sure to write down or memorize the exact formula of the mixture. It is extremely important to know the proportions in order to prepare a similar mixture for subsequent touch-ups and elimination of defects. Otherwise, it will stand out against the general background, which will create a far from the most attractive effect. Paint for the substrate is applied in the traditional way. That is, first you need to treat the surface with sandpaper and sanders, degrease, and then go through small abrasive materials. This will allow you to competently perform spraying with the addition of Xerallic. It is very important that the layers are applied evenly. If you make a small mistake and deviate from the correct proportions, it will negatively affect the density and change the final saturation. Another reason why it is better to entrust such work to qualified craftsmen. The final third coat of varnish is applied in 2 stages. In this case, it is important to allow time for a good bond between the protective coating layers. To improve the effect of the Xerallic, it is recommended to polish the first layer of varnish before applying the second. The finishing layer is also polished. In the future, it is recommended to follow simple rules for caring for the body. They involve periodic washing, the use of good car shampoos, as well as the mandatory use of protective polishes. This will prolong the life of the original coating and allow you to justify the funds invested in Xerallic. With the help of Xerallic, you can really get an extremely unusual and attractive result after painting the car. The car will definitely stand out from the crowd. The procedure is not the most complicated and not much different from the usual body painting. Here the key role is played by the pigment itself, its correct application, compliance with the proportions and combination of shades. In conclusion, understanding what Xerallic is and how to use it properly can significantly enhance your experience and results. By following the guidelines we've discussed, you can ensure that you are utilizing this product to its full potential. Remember to always read the instructions carefully, start with small amounts, and adjust based on your specific needs. With the right approach, Xerallic can be a valuable addition to your toolkit. Thank you for watching, and we hope you found this information helpful.